Hey, are you running out of disk space? You can solve this problem quickly by moving all your favorite games, photos, movies, or backups to a fast, affordable, and truly pocket-sized memory device that will work with all your devices. The cool Crucial X8 we're talking about here offers read and write speeds of up to 1 GB per second. This drive is even available in a 4 TB capacity version, so it should meet the needs of even the most demanding user. At least in theory. That's why today we'll talk not only about the advantages, but we'll also check where the performance limit of such a drive lies, and I'll help you choose the right capacity version depending on what you want to use it for. This is Pavel, and you're watching TechManiac HD. Welcome! You can watch this video thanks to the support of the GVG Mall platform. It's a huge store specializing in keys for PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and even Google Play games. You can get practically everything here, from Steam gift cards to software like Office or Windows. If you're still struggling with that annoying message reminding you to activate, visit the link in the description right now. You'll receive the purchased key within a few minutes, and all you have to do is paste it into the activation settings. This will not only make your copy of the system genuine, but also allow you to upgrade to Windows 11 without any problems. You can activate and assign the Office package to your account just as easily, and with the code TMHD you'll get a discount. An additional 20% discount, which can increase to 30% during various holidays and events. Stop overpaying and visit the website now. The X8 Portable SSD is a series of drives by Crucial introduced in 2019 and expanded with a 4 TB version in 2022. All capacity versions use QLC-type memory chips. The appearance might not suggest it directly, but the X8 Portable is actually an M.2 NVMe drive in the 2280 size communicating with the computer via a USB Type-C port. However, if any of your devices don't have this port, the manufacturer has included a clever adapter in the package. The adapter allows you to connect the device to a standard USB Type-A port as well. The packaging follows Crucial's typical style with a navy blue and white color scheme. On the front, you'll find information about the capacity and maximum speed. It should reach up to 1050 MB per second. There's also information about compatibility here. The main performance indicator, which is sequential read, is the same across all versions, but Crucial doesn't provide any others here. That means even the sequential write values are not provided. This also applies to such an important, though not always appreciated parameter, the maximum number of operations performed per second, or IOPS. But don't worry, we'll test those ourselves. The rounded case is a bit unusual. Since it houses a slim, narrow, and really thin M.2 SSD inside, why is it so big? Well, it's about keeping the drive's temperature low even during heavy use because the case is mostly made of black anodized aluminum. This gives the device durability and resistance to whatever life throws at it. In other words, it's a device I'm not afraid to carry in my pocket or even sit on, and unfortunately, we can't say the same about many other portable drives. Enclosures for 2.5-inch SSDs are usually quite tacky and tend to fall apart or crack even when dropped from a small height. According to the manufacturer's claims, the tested model is resistant to low and high temperatures, and it can also withstand a drop from 2 meters. Competing portable drives with similar speeds, although they may be smaller in size, are still hard to trust completely. The Crucial X8 Portable may not win any awards for its sleek design, but I have to admit that its soap-like shape fits well in the hand and doesn't irritate when you carry it in your pocket. This case is not meant to be opened, but in practice, as we know, anything that has been closed can somehow be opened. However, such an action can not only reduce future resistance to drops or possible moisture, but most importantly, it can damage the thermal pads. The last thing we would want is to disrupt the factory operating parameters, so instead of tearing the original thermal pads, I'll use a video available on YouTube. As you can see, the thermal pads are not only on both sides inside the enclosure, but Crucial also placed a pad between the M.2 drive and the controller's PCB. It wouldn't be surprising in the 2 TB or 4 TB version of the drive, which has memory chips on both sides, but this solution was also used in the 1 TB version of the drive. Crucial used the Silicon Motion 2263 controller here. This chip works well in many other drives, so there shouldn't be any problems with it. In the case of my 1 TB version, the flash memory consists of two 64-layer Micron 64L QLC chips with a capacity of 512 GB each. The cache memory is DDR4 chips, but unfortunately the capacity of the cache is unknown, although it is probably 1 GB. The whole thing resembles a Crucial P1 series drive with modified firmware tailored for portable drive applications. The tests were conducted on my desktop computer, and just to be sure, I also verified the results on an Asus ROG Zephyrus Duo 16 laptop. To start the drive, just connect it to any USB port. The device is immediately detected by the system, and we can see that it comes pre-formatted in exFAT. The actual storage space available is 931 GB. So let's move on to what we like best, the performance test. To take full advantage of the drive's capabilities, you need to connect it to a 10 gigabit USB port. For the test, I received a 1 TB unit which in synthetic benchmarks recorded results that did not fully match the manufacturer's claims. Sequential read in AS SSD reached up to 850 MB. In versions 7 and 8 of Crystal Diskmark, the read speed exceeded 920 MBs, but that's still far from the 1050 we could see on the packaging. However, I also managed to test the 2 TB version of this model, and that one easily even exceeded the declared read and write values. Anyway, I'm sure most of you know that some solid-state drives really struggle when a significant portion of the available space is filled. In other words, that's the easiest way to tell junk products from good ones. So I filled the tested unit up to 80% and repeated the tests. As you can see, the results in Crystal Diskmark and AS SSD didn't change at all, which of course speaks very well for the product itself, but that's not the end of the tests. Synthetic benchmarks that last a few minutes tell us a lot, but definitely not everything. The real test of performance, where every drive eventually gives in, is the attempt to continuously write a huge amount of data. In the case of the 1 TB version, I attempted to write a 744 GB file. This amount equals 80% of the available disk space. The Crucial X8 portable gave in after just 200 GB and the write speed dropped to around 30 to 40 MBs. Interestingly, this doesn't seem to be an issue of the NAND memory or controller overheating, but rather looks like a slowdown caused by the cache being full. This way we've reached the actual native data write speed directly to the QLC chips. Admittedly, very few people will actually perform such operations on files. However, it's worth keeping in mind that the 1 TB version can drastically slow down writing during such a marathon. The good news is that the 2 TB version of the drive is already a much better performer when it comes to these kinds of special tasks. Of course, this unit also slowed down. Also, after exceeding around 200 GB, which I emphasize, is not unusual here, but the write speed dropped not to 30 to 40 MB like in the case of the 1 TB sample, but to a much more pleasant 170 to 180 MB. And this is a very important piece of information that you really should keep in mind when choosing the right drive. This slowdown typically comes from the number of NAND modules. Since the 2 TB and 4 TB versions have chips mounted on both sides, they are naturally able to maintain higher write speeds after the cache is filled. The cost of the 2 TB version is also very reasonable compared to the 1 TB drive. However, these prices are constantly changing, so it's worth checking the current prices in the description below the video. Now let's move on to the proprietary software, which really offers a lot. When you launch the program, you have as many as 12 tabs available. The first one displays basic information about the system. In the second tab, you can get more details about each of the drives. Next, you'll find Smart Readings, the option to update the firmware, but this feature only works with Crucial drives, which are of course manufactured by Micron. The next options include disk cleaning, formatting, or PSID revert, which means clearing the Opal security settings and unlocking the drive. Next, you'll find the option to enable Momentum Cache, which is a kind of cheat that uses RAM as additional cache. Enabling this option will increase the theoretical speed of the drive, but of course, when testing, we should never take this kind of technology into account. In this software, we can also activate Flex Capacity Technology, OP, or test the drive. With many other manufacturers, the included software is usually only used to update the firmware. You know, that's all it does. Install it, check if there's an update, then uninstall it and forget about it forever. Crucial Storage Executive is probably the only software I won't delete right after making this video, and that really says something. Well, Micron, that's a point for you. So what's my opinion on the tested 1TB Crucial X8 drive? It's definitely a well-designed device with a solid seamless metal casing. At first, the size seemed too big to me, but after spending some time with the drive, my point of view changed. Sure, it's not small, but thanks to that, it's almost impossible to overheat it, and you'd really have to try hard to physically damage it. It's true that it doesn't have an official dust or water resistance certificate, but unofficially, a bit of dust or a splash of water probably won't do it any harm either. The use of QLC-type chips here might discourage some potential buyers, but it definitely has a positive effect on the final price. My recommendation is that although the 1TB version slows down quite a bit during long continuous writing, there's really no need to worry about it. Many other portable drives start throttling much earlier, and you have to ask yourself whether you ever write such a huge amount of data in one go. However, if you're a more demanding user, then a 2 or even 4TB drive might be the one that will meet your needs for many years to come. One thing that could be improved here is that I would prefer a longer USB cable. It would also be useful to have some kind of indicator, like an LED light, to signal that the device is working. That's probably what I would care about the most. If you enjoyed this material, remember to leave a like and be sure to visit my website www.techmaniachd.pl. Thanks to the intuitive menu, you'll definitely find more inspiring content there. See you in the next one.